Greetings and salutations. Vince Robinson here, Open Door Live, and I have a very special guest with me today. He is Dr. David Imhotep. Among other things, he is the author of The First Americans Were Africans. He's also working on a book that is called Ali and Me, and it recounts his experience as a nutritionist for Muhammad Ali. He's also been a nutritionist for several other figures that I'm sure he will let us know about. But at this point, it gives me great honor and privilege to welcome to Open Door Live, Dr. David Imhotep. Dr. Imhotep, how are you today?
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. I'd like to welcome you to this program. We just completed a radio broadcast, 360 Info Network on AM 1490 here in Cleveland, Ohio. As I understand it, you're in Roanoke, Virginia?
Yes, I am in the mountains.
Okay. So you have doctorates in nutrition and ancient African history. I think the degree in nutrition came first. So we'll talk about nutrition first. What was the impetus for your interest in nutrition?
I did a I turned vegetarian when I was in high school, and I saw what it did for my body, and I went a little further and started doing fasting and prayer, and I just saw a difference in my body. It became leaner. I didn't have a little pot belly. I felt better. I didn't have to sleep as long. What can I tell you? It's just a total difference in my body and my body type at that time.
Mm-hmm. What was the tipping point? I know we had a conversation a couple of days ago, and I was telling you how I looked into the refrigerator that one day and saw the package of sausage, and it said beef hearts, pork lips, and other byproducts. And I thought, wow, what am I eating? I don't really think that I want to consume those kinds of things. So it wasn't right away that I changed my diet. But what happened was I had some chili at Kent State University. And you know what they do with chili? They take the hamburgers that they didn't sell the day before.
Yes, sir.
And they magically appear. So needless to say, I got food poisoning. I didn't make a conscious decision for a week. But after 7 days went by, I realized that I had eaten fish 7 straight days. Something was telling me, bruh, you don't want that to happen to you again. So I just left beef altogether. And eventually I also left dairy. I left eggs. I became vegan. And it just completely changed my life. So I had that tipping point. What was the tipping point for you?
Well, first of all, once you did all that, how did it make you feel?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily saw results right away. You know, I think my main idea was to not get sick from eating meat. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you over a period of time, and it's been over 40 years, I know that there are changes that have taken place in my body. For instance, I used to get severe migraine headaches. And it wasn't just the head pounding, it was the diarrhea, it was the head pounding, it was an unsettled stomach. It was a whole bunch of other things that I literally had to shut myself down. My mother took me to the hospital. They gave me medication that knocked me out, you know. But once my diet changed, and specifically when I went towards the vegan, I also noticed that the severity of those things reduced significantly. And then, you know, I was at Whole Foods and the sister working in health and beauty aids, and she said, oh, well, you know, you can take niacin. I'm like, okay. So I got niacin, I got a homeopathic remedy called Migrade, and I started taking those two things when I would get my warning signals, because, you know, you lose part of your vision.
Oh, boy.
The floater goes across your field of vision. And whenever that would happen, I'm like, okay, it's about to happen. So I get my niacin, I get my Migrade, and, you know, I'm good. I can go out and play golf because I did what I needed to do. When in the past, when I got that migraine, shut it down. So I know not I believe, not I think, I know that the dietary change has made a difference.
Absolutely. Very well put. And the same with me.
Okay.
Same with me. I played football in high school, and then got recruited by University of Maryland. I started playing football with them, and I I saw something that I didn't like to see, and that was I started getting some blood in my feces. So I went to a few people, and the doctors, of course, couldn't help me. And I went to some nutritionists, and one fellow told me, he says, your problem is meat and too much protein, and also the things that they are feeding the cows and the bulls and the pigs and even the chickens with now. So slowly I put down all of those different things, and I felt great. Now I I started having a few problems in my later stages when I was in my 40s. And I went and checked myself out, and they said, well, you might want to try to eat some fish. So I started eating fish again, and everything just cooled out. So no, that's about what I do now. I eat the only thing I eat is fish,
Okay.
and vegetables. And I'm trying to get off of more of the cooked vegetables and go into a type where I'm not eating anything cooked. Because you kill the enzymes and a lot of the nutrients in the foods that we eat, and that we put up a larger temperature than what is supposed to be there. So no, I don't I don't have the same lifestyle anymore, and I don't get colds anymore. I don't get sick. I get nothing but good feelings.
You talked about protein, and one of the things that I've discovered in the reading and the research that I've done is that too much protein in the American diet is problematic.
Mm-hmm.
But the other problem is that we get our guidance on what to eat from the USDA, which has a vested interest in cattle farming and dairy farming and those other kinds of things. But they have done studies. And what they have found is that we don't require as much protein as we're told we need to have. And because we're consuming too much of it, clogged arteries and all other kinds of things, inflammation in the body as a result of it, the fact that we're taking the milk from a cow, which is intended to grow a calf, not a human being, and we're also getting milk that has hormones that have been added so that the cows can grow faster, so that they'll be larger when they go to the slaughterhouse, so that the cattle farmer can make more money. So it's profit driven, and it's not, it's not health related. So we're getting all this guidance from the USDA, and then people get sick, and then they go to the doctor. And then the doctor minds that opportunity for more profits, because he's going to put us, or she's going to put us on a medication that we take for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Or they get profits by putting stents in your heart, or giving you a new heart or a new kidney, for which they make $500,000 or more for that surgery. So it's really all about money, and it's not about health.
Yes. The subject I'm getting on now is similar, but I will tell you that people are going to say, "Oh my God, I never knew that." You don't have to eat meat to get protein in your body.
High to protein vegetables you should be eating.
And
the 17 best protein sources for vegans and vegetarians.
Okay.
From Healthline.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll just go through this real quickly. Seitan is something that is not a meat, but it's I wouldn't think that you should eat anything like that. Then tempeh and edamame. Tempeh is another source. All these are going to be sources of vegetables, of protein. And you get lentils, lentil beans, chickpeas, and most varieties of beans. Number 5, nutritional yeast. Yes, protein in yeast as well. Split peas, green peas, spirulina, Ezekiel bread and other breads made from sprouted grains. Sprouted grains.
Mm-hmm.
Grains. Soy milk, oats and oatmeal, white rice, chia seeds, nuts and nut butters and other seeds, and protein-rich fruits and vegetables.
Right.
Be a vegetarian. Why not?
Right.
Why not do what I did? But I had to do it because I had to get the fish in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a similar path. 1987, I went to Japan as part of a group study exchange through Rotary International.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was vegan, but I got over to Japan and I had some of that seitan. You know, of course, I had tofu, and there were ways that they did tofu that made you taste like something that you were familiar with. You know, I pushed a little back from soy, though. I mean, I know that the tempeh is fermented soy, so it's better for you than the tofu. And then the other thing about the tofu is that it's made from genetically modified soy.
Yes.
90% of the soy that's farmed in America is GMO soy. So, you know, you definitely want to check the label and make sure that that tofu that you're getting is non-GMO soy. Bruh, look, I was making tofu salad and scrambled tofu and, you know, all those things back in the day. Not so much anymore, but, you know, for my friends who are interested in becoming vegan or vegetarian, I share those things with them because sometimes they need something that reminds them of something that they had before as that bridge, you know. And I think America and the rest of the world really is waking up to this. So now you're seeing all kinds of products beyond meat and Impossible Burger and all these other things that they're giving you now. But it's important to keep in mind that these are still refined products.
Yes.
And you want to get to, and I'm not the expert. I'm just sharing with you what I know. You're probably a better person to speak about this.
You're right on the money.
But, you know, after 40, 50 years, if you don't have it by now, you ain't never going to get it. So, but yeah, you know, it's just really important for us to know that we don't need as much protein as they say we do.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at African people, you know, places on the continent of Africa where they do consume meat, you know, it's not always the main course. Sometimes that meat simply serves as a spice or something that's added to the dish, but it's not the main thing.
Right.
You know, and I think that supports the idea of not over consuming protein.
Right.
Because the other part of it is that digestion, it takes its toll on your body. When you eat that 16-ounce steak, you know, that your teeth were not capable, because you can't just go to the cow and yank a piece of meat off of it. The dog can do that.
Oh, man.
The lion can do that. The jaguar can do that. But we need a knife and a fork and hours of cooking or minutes of cooking. And, you know, I remember my grandmother used to have this hammer, and she would actually beat.
Oh.
So, you know what I mean? It's just interesting, you know, the lengths that we go through to avoid doing what comes natural to us, and that is eating the fruit off the tree, eating the vegetable that's growing from the ground. I mean, if you adhere to what Dr. Sebi shared with us, the food that you eat is around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there are so many plants that we completely discount.
Yes.
Like dandelions. Dandelions grow in my yard, and I hate to cut them down. I hate to push the mower over those dandelions because, you know, you can pull up the leaves. That's a salad. You can take the root. You can prepare a tea from that. You could actually, if you wanted to go to an extreme, you could take those flower tops the yellow, beautiful flower tops, and you could batter fry this bad boys. You know, and I know the groundhogs have thoroughly enjoyed my dandelions because I see them out there in the yard just tearing them up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes. So give us some more insight aside from the protein sources, some of the other things that we should be eating in terms of whole foods and plant-based things.
Juices. I have two different juicers that you can drop a carrot in it, and the liquid will come out, and the other source that's not liquid is blown out the other way, and you can use both still in your diet. But when I'm fasting or something like that, I just do the drinking. There's a fruit juice fast and there's a vegetable juice fast. They do different things for your body. These fish, the only fish that I eat is salmon and trout. I don't eat the big long fish. I don't eat the small little minnows or whatever. I just eat those two. And I found that those are the best sources of fishitarians, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
This eating of steaks and how steaks will make you strong and all that stuff, I'm afraid to let you know that that's not true.
Yeah. Well, you know, back in the day, there were cereals that they used to market on TV, you know, and as a child, I used to watch those commercials and think that if I ate the cereals, I would get big muscles.
Cheerios.
Well, Cheerios, but then Frosty-O's and King Vitamin and others, you know. But the reality about those cereals is they're largely refined.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal ingredient is sugar in all of them.
Right.
And knowing what sugar does, and we talked about that a little bit in the radio program, but sugar is extremely detrimental to our health and to our development.
Yes.
Could you give us some insight on the dangers of sugar and why it's so detrimental to us?
Well, refined sugar, anything that's refined is not good for you. Period. As far as sugar goes, myself, I would not eat sugar if someone put it on my plate and it was my favorite food around it. No. I would sweeten my food with, as I said, those other sources. Okay. The other sources are far better for you than sugar. It's refined. If you eat the plants that the sugar is grown on, those plants are good for you, but you don't eat too much of those. Sugar-based recipes taste great, but trust me, they're not good. You can use the other natural things like the honey. Okay, honey is the best thing. Or the pancake liquid. I forget what you call. What was the name of it? Log cabin. Log cabin is another thing that you can have because that has a sugary taste, but not that refined sugar in it. So honey would be the major thing that I would put to use on my food if I was changing to go from sugar to something other sweet, which is the best. In also, what is it? There's another thing. I can't remember.
Agave.
It was no, I think I just talked about the pancake log cabin. The log cabin. I remember that. So those two things, log cabin and or honey, you can use those to sweeten your food.
Yeah.
You don't need and please, sugar is a disaster for your body, for your teeth, for your eyesight, for your stomach, digestion, for your energy. No.
Yeah.
Not good. Not
right.
Good.
Yeah, and you know, with the maple syrup, I have heard, and again, I've been doing a lot of research on this, but they suggest the grade B maple syrup because the grade B is not refined to the extent that maple syrups are. So you got to go out of your way to find the grade B. You know, some of those commercial pancake syrups, I would definitely check the label before I purchase them,
Yeah,
because many of those pancake syrups are high fructose corn syrup
yeah,
based,
yeah.
as opposed to being a more natural type syrup. I can remember growing up, and my grandmother would make me pancakes, and it was either Alaga
Oh
or
Lord.
Aero.
Oh, I couldn't,
And
I couldn't handle either one of those. I just
no,
log
they,
cabin. I would not touch those. Man, oh man, I just did not like the taste. But that log cabin, sweet to my mouth, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not that good. That's why I kept saying log cabin, yes, but what? Honey, honey, honey,
yeah,
honey. I said that
yeah.
over and over. And I
Hmm.
wanted to, just to let people know that's not a plant. That is a plant-based food, but it has been doctored.
Hmm.
So honey has not been doctored.
Okay.
They take it straight out of that plant and put it in the jars, and boom, great,
Okay.
great for you.
What can you share with us about the impact of genetic modification on foods? I know that corn is largely genetically modified.
Yes.
Um, Wheat can be genetically modified. Uh, there are just so many things in our regimen that are genetically modified, and the studies about genetic modification of foods are swept under the rug because you have huge companies like Monsanto that are pushing their seeds
Yeah.
over heirloom seeds because they want to have a monopoly on growing food.
Mm.
So they're taking these GMO seeds to places like Africa and India and other parts of the world, and at the same time they're buying up farmland so that they can mechanize agriculture and implement that. But we know, at least some of us do, that genetic modification of foods can be detrimental. And even your beloved salmon,
Oh,
in some ways, is being genetically modified as well. So, talk to us about the impact of genetic modification of foods and why we may not want to consume foods that have been modified that way.
let me get over here. You have foods that are not modified and foods that are modified. Okay, they come together inside your blood, and instead of doing this, they do this. That's the easiest way I can tell you about those type of things that they are doing. Those Frankenstein people who are changing the essence of the foods instead of having the raw foods or the juice from them. It's just terrible. It's terrible. And I didn't say it didn't taste good, because it does taste good, but it's just not. It's in the long run, it's not good for you.
Yeah. And, along with that, a lot of the sugar that we get comes from beets that have been genetically modified,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes from corn that has been genetically
Yeah.
modified. And then the other thing is that, and I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, is the prominence of sugar as an ingredient in a lot of our foods.
Yes.
So, for instance, if you go to the store and you buy a loaf of bread,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not whole grain bread,
That's
it's
right.
not sprouted bread,
Mm-hmm.
either sprouted wheat or other sprouted grains, the Ezekiel bread that you referenced. It's got evaporated cane juice.
Mm.
It's got some form of sugar in it, and it is one of the first ingredients that's listed in the list of
Yeah.
ingredients. So that
Yeah.
means that it's more prominent than some of the other
Yeah.
ingredients. So, I just think that it's important folks know that you want to read the labels and you want to be aware. Let's talk about the sprouted bread. Why sprouted bread over other types of bread?
I couldn't tell you because I don't eat it. The
You don't
sprouts,
eat sprouted?
the sprouted bread, of course, um, it has more life in it. It's closer to nature, whereas the others are not. I'm not saying that they're not good for you as well, but these sprouted breads are far better for you because it's more whole. It's more natural.
Mm-hmm. And sprouted, I mean, what causes what process do you go through in order to sprout bread?
I couldn't tell you. I don't do it. I don't make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just share with the viewers that I buy sprouted bread as often as I can, and I found it at Aldi's. They got this brand called Knock Your Sprouts Off, and it's only $2.99 a loaf. So it's an economical choice right now, even though we're seeing inflation running rampantly. That's a whole nother subject. We're not going to deal with that today. But that's one of my secrets. I go to different stores for different things.
What was it called? I want to write that down. That
Knock Your Sprouts Off. Yeah, only $2.99 a loaf, and you can go to Whole Foods or Fresh Time and pay $6 for a loaf of bread, or you can go to Aldi's and get it for $3 at present. Now
knock your
again,
sprouts off.
Knock Your Sprouts Off.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have a low sodium version as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see this man who's not a nutritionist, who's teaching the nutritionist.
I should be letting you teach this. I'm just trying to lob you some softball.
No. No, that was another good one.
Yeah.
No, you're doing well, and that's why you look well.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
And
that.
I'm not a homosexual.
I got you. I respect
No. Don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about those brothers.
I don't talk about
To do what they do.
I'm not. That's all.
But we traveling in a different lane.
Yes.
We've talked about sugar. Let's talk about sodium.
Sodium.
Yeah. So what kind of things should we do? Because you got to have some sodium in your diet. I mean, it's one of those elements that makes up us. We got sodium in us, and we got all other kinds of minerals in us. But how should we approach getting sodium into our diet, and what's safe in terms of consumption of it?
Okay. I got to tell you that my studies in nutrition and doing diets and helping people, all these things, ended 25 years ago. So I went into the history realm, and I have forgotten a lot of different things that I did every day, or the things that I have taught. So I'm sorry, but I can't help you on going deep into the nutritional part of this conversation, because I'm 71 years old, and I don't remember a lot of things that I used to remember and what was taught. And I went to this, the first Americans were Africans type information. So I don't want to lead someone on a false curve.
Yeah, I can respect that. And I definitely understand. I'm not 71 yet, but I know that there are things that I studied 30, 40 years ago that I don't remember either. So my remedy for that is I just go to Google.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
All.
There you go.
If I have a question, there's information out there. I do the research, but I share that information. So if you visited my Facebook page, for instance, almost on a daily basis, you're going to see something that's health related, something that is intended to edify you in terms of knowing what's good and what's not.
There you go.
So that's how I do it. I'm the conduit. I share that information, and folks can do with it what they will.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question on this.
Okay.
If I disconnected my computer from the desk, and I took it downstairs where I have all the pictures of the people that the famous people that I did diets to, do you think it would show up?
I'm not quite sure that it would, because I don't know what your setup looks like. But actually, what I would like to do is I would like to shift gears and talk about the book that's in front of you.
Okay.
And talk about what's in your headspace right now, because I'm such a staunch advocate for nutrition and healthy living and veganism. I couldn't let this opportunity to connect with you about that go by.
Right.
So I think we have given some gems, some nuggets to those who are watching right now, and if they heed the advice about different kinds of plant-based proteins, I think they'll be in a good place. If they know that they need to avoid sugar and overconsumption of sugar, I think they're in a good place. So I think we've given that its justice.
Okay.
But you know, I also have a very profound interest in African history, and I have in front of me one of the most prolific scholars on that subject right now. You've got a PhD in it, so you have to know something, and you've written a book that some may pay over $1,000 for. So if they're willing to pay that much for it, there must be something between those covers that is relevant. So let's talk about the idea that Africans were the first Americans. Why did you come to that conclusion, and what have you learned that will support that conclusion?
Well, I have had some phenomenal teachers, like Clyde Winters and a boatload of other people who helped me on my way to learning about our history. And some of the best, no, a few other Caucasian gentlemen agreed with what we said, and some of them even came across with some things that that my friends didn't know. So I don't push anyone away. Anyone who has something that is continuously been studied and that we know that it's true, it's true. So the other thing I do is when people talk about what they've written, they say, "Well, I have a lot of facts." Well, facts are good, but some of them are not that good. How can I say that? Well, facts. Sometimes you'll have a fact that I love this juice right here today, okay, and that's a fact. But you let it spoil overnight, or say it was milk or something. You let it spoil overnight, and you go to drink it, and it's not a fact anymore. It's not good for you anymore. So all facts are not good for you. All right. But evidence in we're talking about knowledge now. We're talking about evidence is always correct. Evidence is what you go with when you're writing a paper, not facts, because evidence change. As I said, one day it's good, another day it's going to be something else, possibly. All right. So that's what I go with the facts and truth. So also with my writing, I like to check out the different sources and where they came from, even call people or email people and see what they think about something else that they're writing or someone else is writing. So all of those different things over the years led me to this book right here. It led me to this one, which is almost 400 pages, and I've got all these pictures in it. And let me just read to you a couple of the things that it covers. Here we go. Christopher Columbus, was he a sinner or a saint? That's easy to tell. They came before Columbus. They came before Clovis. We were here before Clovis happened. How are and these are the chapters, because we don't have time to go into all of it. How are the groups and their artifacts related? The African structures left in North America and the mounds especially. African structures in Central and South America. The largest African underwater site, 55 miles out away from Miami. In other words, pyramids under the water. Just two more. Who built the Bimini ancient underwater structures and the magic of Bimini in the Bahamas? So I've got a lot in this, and it's out now today. My first book on that was here. That's the first part of this book. All right, first American, and this was a gentleman. He was a black African. You see if I right here. I don't see if you can read about him or whatever, but I took a lot of the information from his studies, and then it was 8 years ago. I wrote this book, and then all this other information started coming. So I wanted to get it as well. So now I have this book incorporated with this book right here. You can see the difference. Okay, and this book is the one now that I have that has all so much information and pictures and different things in it today that I'm not selling it for $1,000 like some people had it on um,
eBay.
yeah, eBay. Some other people were selling it, but it wasn't real. I mean, not real, but maybe they had it, but they wanted to get rid of it, but they charged $1,000. So a few people went for that craziness. But it took me 2 years to turn this into what I have now here today. 2 years. So now I'm sorry about those people who paid for something that wasn't right, but this one is still what is it, 16 for $16, something of that nature.
Yes.
And it's you see how thick it is. So it's a what is it, 400, almost 400 pages. So it's got a lot in it.
Okay. I appreciate you selling or sharing the content with us, and I know that there is interest in that. And I think I also shared with you that a very good friend and a close colleague of mine is Wayne Chandler, who wrote the book Ancient Future.
Oh yes.
Yes, profound, brother. I mean,
Yes.
I've had the book for years. I mean, literally years, like maybe 15 or so. Maybe 15, maybe I don't know if it's been out that long, but needless to say, I had the book, but I never read it. And then winter solstice this past year, in the midst of my fast, I read that book from cover to cover.
There you go.
And it was just so profound in giving me an understanding of who the Aryans were and what impact that they've had on our perception of civilization, as well as understanding the significance of the civilization that they pirated.
Aha.
Because they've taken credit for the things that we're responsible for. And your name is the evidence of that. Let's talk about who Imhotep was and why you chose Imhotep, or it chose you as a moniker.
From what I read about that man, blew all of the others away that I read about. He was such an ancient person. I believe he was the person who helped build the first pyramid. And we don't have a whole lot of information on him, but it is good information. And I love the psychological and spiritual thing that was hooked up with that. So that's my pseudonym that I go with when I write, David Imhotep.
Okay.
This is something else that about this book I think the people would want to hear and see.
Okay.
Okay. It's the First Americans were Africans, expanded and revised, written by Dr. David Imhotep, is not the first author to draw attention to the African presence before Columbus. Dr. Imhotep skillfully weaves together a well-researched, insightful, and peer-reviewed thesis. Dr. Imhotep's book is by far the most revolutionary viewpoint ever published on this subject. After colossal negroid stone heads were first found in Mexico in the 1860s, several Latin American scholars began to speculate Africans had sailed to the New World in ancient times. Unlike their predecessors, he does not claim Africans simply sailed to the Americas before Columbus and influenced the Native Americans themselves. Were Black Africans who reached the campsites, genetic mark, but by seeing the sighting skulls, genetic markers, linguistics, paintings, carvings, architecture, writing on the walls, artifacts, and structures are all in this book. And this is why it makes it so valuable to know. What is obvious is what we have been told in history about the true origins of African American civilization is simply inaccurate. This book provides convincing evidence, not hearsay or facts, but evidence that the Africans were settled far earlier than thought, and the earliest inhabitants probably came from Africa. And I would say definitely came from Africa. It is Dr. Hotep's deep conviction and that Black Africa is at the very root of human adventure and is the seed of all civilizations. So that's what's in here.
Okay. So again, if you have an interest in understanding us being here before 1492, then you've got a resource to gain that understanding. We can't, here's the whole thing. And again, when we talk about the radio show that we're doing and the subject matter that we're trying to bring home, we're just trying to create a condition in which people can begin to understand who they are. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest issues that we have as a people in this country and around the world is that we don't know. And we have depended on someone outside of ourselves to give us that knowledge. Mm-hmm. And as a result of the story being told to us, we don't have a clue.
Very true.
You know, when we start that radio program, my co-host, Hamtonio, uses the same saying every time. Mm-hmm. And he says, what you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. Mm-hmm. What you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told.
Oh,
those are the words of Quad David Whitaker, Dr. Quad David Whitaker, who is a product of Cleveland, Ohio. He's also an African chief. And he, like you, has 2 different doctorates. He is a doctor of psychology, and he's also a doctor of law. So, you know, he's another Imhotep.
Okay.
He don't call himself Imhotep, but Dr. Whitaker is also involved in the creation and the construction of an African-centered university in Ghana. You see? So, you know, again, it's all about knowing yourself, and the way that you know yourself is that you have an understanding of history, and we can't depend on our oppressor to give us that understanding, because once we wake up to who we are,
it's over.
Then we know, well, hey, something about this situation that we in ain't right, and we need to do what we need to do to correct it so that ultimately our minds can be free. Mm-hmm. We're living in a battleground right now all around the world, and the battleground is within our minds, and the information that we're being given is intended to control our minds so that we can be controlled and we can't control ourselves. So one way that you get to self-control is through self-knowledge.
That's correct.
There's another saying, physician, heal thyself.
Okay.
Okay. So when you know that dandelion root is going to stave off an infection or something in your body, all you got to do is go out to the yard, pull up the dandelion root, let it do what it do. But what we do is we go to the doctor and we say, hey, doc, something ain't right. So we ask the doctor how we feel. How the doctor know how you feel? He ain't feeling you, you feeling you.
Oh, boy.
Self-knowledge is key.
Yes.
And we have to do what we have to do in order to know ourselves. And knowing ourselves is knowing our history. So what you're doing is extremely important. I'm just sitting here thinking when you brought up Bimini, and I know you spent some time in Detroit, Michigan, and that area. And one of our most prominent funksters, George Clinton, is also rooted in that area. And he talked about Bimini Road on that album that had Psycho Alpha Disco Beta Bio Aquadulu. And he says, I never learned to swim. He's talking about Sir Nose Devoid of Funk or something, but in the lyric, he brings up Bimini Road, and he talks about the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
You know something about that. Tell us what you know.
Okay. The island of Bimini, boy, I wish you'd have caught me beforehand to show you a picture. Don't have them now, but the Bimini Road is an island that is now underneath the water, most of it, and it's in Bimini. The reason it's underneath the water is because this area was above water for hundreds of thousands of years, but because of the snow and the ice and these different things over long times of period. Let me tell you, when you have, I'll use this piece of paper as the sky, and you have let me see, a pencil. Oh boy. Let me get a pencil here. Or a pen is even better. Okay, right here is the orbit of Earth around the sun. And you will look right here at the ends of it. That's where the Earth is the farthest from the sun, and that's wintertime. Then you look at the area right here and here, and it's the closest to the sun. So you have winter, summer, winter, summer, winter, summer, winter, summer. Okay, and your conceptions about what's in your body and what's not in your body, what's in your mind, slightly change during those periods. Some people have been studying that, and I haven't got into it really heavy yet, but it's very important to realize that we are in a solar system that has an infinite amount of range, and people leave it in rockets and then come back after years and years, and they only made one trip. That's true today. So this voyage that we're doing now in history is very important to get into things of this nature and read about what is true. We were taught in grade school that the first Africans were brought to the Americas in 1619 as slaves. I don't think so. We have peer-reviewed evidence now that in Central America, there were Africans there building pyramids and other places and other things of that nature between, oh goodness gracious, here we go, a mind fart. They were there for many, many years, centuries before anyone else came along. Centuries, a long period of time before they came along, and you will be able to see that these pyramids are prominent on every place on this planet. You can see pyramids. Most of them are underwater. Most people do not know that there are pyramids underwater. There was a time and period of this right here where you have what? Gravity that pulls and gravity that pushes. So all of these things are in this book that I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I'm just jumping around to little pieces of it, but it's a compilation of many years of writing and a lot of different pieces of evidence that cannot be pushed away. It's better than facts. I have evidence in this book. Take it away.
All right. Well, wonderful. If somebody wants to get a copy of your book, how would they be able to do that?
Amazon. As of last week, this went up.
Okay.
Amazon.
All right. So it's fairly recent that you've been able to get it up and out. And again, as you said, a few moments ago, it is a comprehensive book. You've done some revising and some addition to it, so there's more information than there was in the original book.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
And before we go, tell us about your book, Ali and Me.
Ali and Me. It's not out yet, but let me see. Oh boy, you have the pictures I have are in my computer.
Okay.
So I can't show you. Oh boy. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I was in we lived in Florida, and we moved from Florida about 20 years ago, and I want to show you a health food store and restaurant that I had. It's called Seven Seasons, and we had a very distinguished person come and eat there one time because he heard it was a health food place, and this is who it was.
That's Muhammad Ali.
That's Muhammad, and that's me.
That's you?
That's me.
Okay. All right. You look like you could have been in the ring, bruh.
Oh, I did a little something. You see my hands?
Uh-huh.
You see my knuckles?
Uh-huh.
What's that from?
Okay. You touched a few faces with him, huh?
Yeah, because we used to like to, hit trees and make our knuckles bigger and do whatever. Because see, I was born in near Roanoke, Virginia, and we moved to Baltimore, and oh my goodness, Baltimore and up in the hills is totally different. You had to watch out for the big boys to come take the money from you at lunchtime, when you're in grade school, and if you didn't, you wouldn't eat. And I got tired of that. So one day I pushed the guy away, and he says, "No, give it to me." Reached in my pocket, and I smacked him real good. And he goes, "Oh!" He started running away. I did like this. Oh my God!
You got some weapons.
Whoa! I did not understand that. So from then on, I never went without lunch. And so I also got into the a little boxing, and because of Ali, I was his nutritionist for his last 6 or 7 fights, and I found that it's not your stature or how tall you are, but how well you move and how you've been taught to box and whatnot. So I got away from that, and of course I got into reading things of this nature. And now you can see some of the books. I have a whole cellar of these. These are my major books right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different stories, and I have more downstairs. But it's good if you want to get into something, go all the way into it. Go to school and find out what you can find out about it, and then when you finish that, you go to people like Ivan Van Sertima and people of that nature who have already been here, and find out what they can contribute to your thesis or your story that you're writing or whatnot. And that's what happened to me, and that's the journey that I went through.
Okay. You opened up another door when you talked about being in Roanoke, Virginia. And I know, and it's documented that your Jake name is David C. Jones. I'm just curious if you have done any research into your ancestry and have any awareness of, the great grandfather and the great great grandfather and how you ended up being a Jones.
Yes. Well, the Jones name came from slaves, and the slave was my great great grandmother, and she was brought here from Ghana. And of course, they raped the girls there, and that's how I got my lighter skin. And it was just horrifying to realize what she went through and different things of that nature. Now, what was the question again? Because I got off a little bit.
Well, no, you kind of answered the question because you indicated that you had a great great grandmother who, was raped by a slave master.
Right.
And the reason that I think that is relevant is because there are some who want to completely discount the experience of Africans being transported from Africa to America, and they want to completely negate the whole idea that Europeans have been a part of our gene pool, so to speak, because they've asserted themselves in it. We didn't ask them to do that. They did it. Your great great grandmother didn't ask that man to do what he did to her, but it happened.
That's right.
And here we are, the evidence.
That's right.
My people, or at least my father's side of the family, is from Virginia too.
Uh-oh.
Okay. And I know that one of the slave masters did something to somebody from one of my ancestors that resulted in me having skin that looks like this too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, truth of the matter is we all in the same boat.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But the other truth is that some of us were already here, as you illustrated in your book, and some of us were descended from those who were brought over. So we're a combination of all of those people.
Yes.
That's reality.
Yes.
And that's a painful truth that America needs to come to grips with.
Very well put.
The fact of the matter is, the Americans were already here before the Europeans came. And as we were having this conversation, I was just thinking about the absurdity of the notion that you didn't have an awareness of the existence of something. And just because you found out about it, now you can claim to have discovered it, but it was already there. But you tell the story in a way that glorifies you as a discoverer of something, and then another irony is that you utilized us to enable you to discover. The navigator of the ship, one of the ships that brought Columbus to this side of the world, was a brother from Elmina in Ghana. And Elmina is also the location of the very first dungeon that was constructed. Again, we go back to that 0 degrees longitude, 0 degrees latitude, where it all started.
That's right.
So, history is just so important. And again, it's so important for us to know that history so that we have a greater understanding of who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. My brother, we've been on for an hour, and I promised you that I would give you at least an hour. I would like to reconnect with you, and we don't have to wait until Ali and Me comes out. But when that book comes out, I want the world to know about it. I'm really happy to know someone who had a relationship with this man. I saw Ali one time. I was at Midway Airport in Chicago, and I'm walking down the corridor, and I see him walking towards me. And I'm a photographer, so I didn't have my camera with me at the time. So I
no
photo, and this is way before selfies. Now you just whip out the phone and boom, hey, So it wasn't that easy back then. But that's my fond memory of meeting him. I did get to shake his hand. I did get to say hi, Mr. Ali, and so forth and so on. But I didn't have those, you sitting in the same room with him, having conversation with him, giving him guidance on what he should eat and what he shouldn't eat. So, I got to bow down, bro. You've had that experience. And I think it's great for you to be able to share it. So I look forward to that book coming out. I also realize that you have a great resource in the book that you have written and revised. So I want to encourage everyone who's watching this broadcast today, go to Amazon.com, pick up your copy of The First Americans Were Africans, and you will have a very valuable resource to add to your library. Dr. David C. Imhotep, it has been an extreme joy and a pleasure to have conversation with you today, and I look forward to the next one. And until then, peace, blessings, and prosperity to you. And we will reconnect very soon.
And blessings to you and your family. And thank you very much for bringing me on to your wonderful show.
All right. Until we meet again, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your best day. Peace.